What did it say? Sarah asked, though she suspected she already knew. It was from High Counselor Vexthul himself. He said, and I quote, "We were wrong. We need you. Please come home." Sarah turned back to the viewport, watching human engineers solve problems that had seemed impossible just hours before. They worked with tools that bent space and time, technologies that other species had declared beyond reach. But more than that, they worked together with a unity of purpose that transcended individual ambition. "Sarah," Dr. Santos said quietly, "I know what you're thinking, but we can't save people who threw us away the moment it was convenient. We have our own people to think about now." "Do we?" Sarah asked. "Mike, what makes us human? Is it our DNA? Our planet of origin? Or is it something else?" She pulled up a display showing the mysterious threat Admiral Kane had detected. The energy readings were staggering. Whatever this thing was, it made the void wraiths look like gnats by comparison. "I think what makes us human is that we see problems and we solve them. We see people in trouble and we help them. Even when they don't deserve it. Especially when they don't deserve it." She looked at her reflection in the viewport, seeing not just herself but the entire human fleet behind her. "We left because they told us to leave. But we're not the kind of species that abandons 40 billion people to die just to make a point." Dr. Santos sighed. "Sarah, even if we wanted to help, we're one species against something that has the entire Galactic Council running scared." "What can we possibly do that they can't?" Sarah smiled for the first time in weeks. "Mike, you're asking the wrong question. It's not what we can do that they can't. It's what we're willing to do that they won't." She activated her command communicator. "Admiral Kane, please convene the fleet commanders for an emergency conference. And Admiral, send a message to High Counselor Vexthul. Tell him we received his transmission." "What should the message say?" Kane asked. Sarah looked out at the stars, seeing not empty space but possibilities. "Tell him we're coming home." Epilogue: The Human Way. The battle for the galactic core lasted 3 days. When it was over, the mysterious entity that had terrified 2 civilizations lay dispersed into harmless energy, and the combined human-alien fleet limped home to lick their wounds and rebuild. High Counselor Vexthul stood in the same crystal chamber where he had voted to expel humanity 6 months earlier, but now, instead of empty human pods, Ambassador Sarah Chen sat at the central position, surrounded by the representatives of 47 species who looked at her with something approaching reverence. "The motion before us today," Vexthul announced, his voice humble in a way it had never been before, "is to formally reinstate humanity as a founding member of the Galactic Council, with full voting rights and a permanent seat on the Security Directorate." The vote was unanimous. After the session, Vexthul approached Sarah privately. "Ambassador Chen, I must ask, why did you come back? After what we did to you, after how we treated your people, why did you risk everything to save us?" Sarah looked around the chamber, seeing species who had once called humans too violent, too chaotic, too unpredictable. Now those same species owed their existence to human courage and ingenuity. "Counselor Vexthul," she said with a slight smile, "that's just what humans do. We see a problem, and we fix it. Even when the problem is other people's prejudice against us." She gathered her things and headed toward the exit, then paused. "Besides, someone once told me that the galaxy would be better off without human chaos. It turns out they were wrong. The galaxy needs a little chaos. It keeps things interesting." She left the chamber. The other representatives began to understand something fundamental about their human allies. Humanity hadn't returned because they forgave the Council's mistake. They had returned because forgiveness was just another problem to be solved, and humans were very, very good at solving problems. In the months that followed, as the galaxy rebuilt and grew stronger than ever before, one lesson became clear to everyone. The humans weren't just members of galactic civilization. They were its heart, its conscience, and its hope for the future, and this time, no one would ever forget it. End of story. The courtroom stretched endlessly upward, its crystalline walls pulsing with alien light. Commander Sarah Chen stood alone in the center, her human form dwarfed by the towering figures of the Galaxy Council. 12 species sat in judgment, their alien faces twisted with disgust and fear. The Valdorian High Judge, his 6 eyes gleaming like molten gold, leaned forward. His voice echoed through translation devices, cold and final. Sarah Chen of the species known as humans, he began, each word dripping with contempt. You stand accused of the greatest crime in galactic history. You destroyed the hegemony fleet. 40,000 lives lost in an instant. Sarah's jaw clenched. The memory burned in her mind. The massive alien warships bearing down on Earth's colonies, their weapons charging to glass entire worlds. She had made the choice. One human experimental weapon against their armada. They were going to commit genocide, Sarah said, her voice steady despite the chains binding her wrists. My people were defending themselves. A ripple of hisses and clicks filled the chamber. The Zephyrian delegate, resembling a massive insect with translucent wings, spoke next. Your species is too dangerous, it buzzed. Too violent, too creative in destruction. We have watched you for centuries. You turned nuclear fire into weapons. You militarized your own genetics. And now this. The High Judge's tentacles writhed as he gestured to a holographic display. It showed Earth's solar system, marked with red warning symbols. The Galaxy Council has reached its decision, he announced. Humanity is hereby exiled from all civilized space. Your species is forbidden from leaving your star system. Any human vessel found beyond your borders will be destroyed on sight. Sarah felt the weight of billions crushing down on her shoulders. You're sentencing our entire species to a prison. We'll die out there alone. Better that than allowing your kind to spread your violence across the galaxy, the High Judge replied coldly. The energy barrier around Sarah flickered as armed guards approached, but she didn't move. Instead, she looked up at each of the 12 species and smiled, a human expression that made several aliens recoil. You think you know us, she said quietly. You think you understand humans, but you've made one critical mistake. The High Judge's eyes narrowed. And what is that? Sarah's smile widened, showing teeth, a predator's grin that sent chills through every alien in the room. You've given us something to prove. Chapter 2. The Outcasts. 15 years had passed since the exile decree. The edge of the solar system hummed with activity that would have amazed the Galaxy Council, if they had bothered to look. Admiral Marcus Rodriguez floated in the observation deck of Prometheus Station, watching the construction of humanity's newest achievement. The massive space fortress hung against the star field like a metallic mountain, bristling with weapons that existed only in theory when Sarah Chen had stood trial. Sir, came a voice behind him. Dr. Okafor is requesting your presence in Lab 7. She says it's urgent. Marcus turned to see Lieutenant Kim Park, one of the new generation of humans who had never known Earth's blue skies. Born in the void, raised among the stars, these void-born humans were different, taller, paler, with eyes that seemed to hold the darkness of space itself. What's the good doctor excited about this time? Marcus asked, following Kim through the station's corridors. She won't say, sir, but she's been working on the quantum resonance project for months. They entered Lab 7 to find Dr. Amara Okafor practically vibrating with excitement. Around her, holographic displays showed mathematical equations that seemed to bend reality itself. Marcus, she called out, her Nigerian accent thick with enthusiasm. We've done it. We've actually done it. Done what exactly? Marcus approached the central display, where a small metallic device floated in a containment field. Faster than light communication without quantum entanglement, Amara grinned. The aliens use biological quantum networks. We've gone completely synthetic. This little beauty can send messages across the galaxy instantly and they'll never detect it. Marcus stared at the device. You mean, we can talk to anyone, anywhere, without them knowing we exist? Amara's eyes gleamed, The Galaxy Council thinks we're trapped here, slowly dying in isolation. They have no idea what we've become. Through the lab's viewport, Marcus could see the construction yards stretching for thousands of kilometers, shipyards building vessels, with technology that surpassed anything the galaxy had seen, weapons forges creating armaments that could crack planets, and in the deepest, most secret facilities, projects that would make the aliens' worst nightmares seem pleasant. "How many?" Marcus asked quietly. "Sir? How many ships do we have now?" Lieutenant Park consulted her datapad. "The Ghost Fleet numbers 800 vessels, sir. All equipped with cloaking technology the aliens can't detect. The Vanguard fleet is at 1,200 ships, and the Titan-class dreadnoughts, 57 and counting." Marcus finished. "All built with technology they said was impossible." Amara moved to another display showing a galactic map dotted with red markers. "Our scouts have been busy. 37 alien worlds surveyed, their defenses mapped, their weaknesses cataloged. They don't even know we exist beyond the solar system." Marcus nodded slowly. Humanity had taken their exile and turned it into the greatest advantage possible: invisibility. While the Galaxy Council celebrated their containment of the dangerous humans, those same humans had been building an empire in the shadows. "Sir," Kim said hesitantly, "there's something else. We've been intercepting alien communications. There's talk of the Devourers returning." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. The Devourers, an ancient enemy that had nearly destroyed the galaxy 1,000 years ago. Mechanical beings that consumed entire star systems, converting matter into more of themselves. "How long until they return?" Marcus asked. "Intelligence. Suggest maybe 5 years," Kim replied. "The Galaxy Council is panicking. They're calling for unity among all species." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he began to laugh, a sound that made the others exchange worried glances. "All this time," he said finally, "they've been terrified of us. And now they need us." Amara frowned. "What are you thinking?" "Marcus?" "I'm thinking," Marcus said, his eyes gleaming with the same predatory light Sarah Chen had shown years ago, "that humanity is about to make a very dramatic entrance back onto the galactic stage." Chapter 3. The Return. The Galaxy Council's emergency session was chaos. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the great chamber, their voices rising in panic as holographic displays showed the approaching threat. The Devourers had returned. Admiral Zix of the Hegemony Fleet pounded his massive fist on the podium. "We need every ship, every weapon, every warrior we can muster. The Outer Rim worlds are already gone." High Judge Valdorian, now showing his advanced age, raised a trembling tentacle. "We have mobilized everything. 15 million vessels from across the galaxy. Surely that will be enough." "It wasn't enough last time," hissed the Serpentine delegate. "We barely survived with the help of the ancients. And they are gone now." New voice cut through the din, calm, human, and completely impossible. "You're right, it won't be enough." Every alien head turned toward the chamber's entrance. There, striding through doors that hadn't opened, stood a figure that shouldn't exist outside the solar system. Admiral Marcus Rodriguez walked into the chamber as if he owned it, his human form somehow more intimidating than the massive aliens around him. Behind him came 12 other humans, each radiating a quiet confidence that made the aliens recoil. "Impossible," whispered the High Judge. "The barriers, the sensor nets." "You mean these barriers?" Marcus gestured casually. "The energy fields that had kept the chamber secure simply disappeared. Or perhaps you mean the sensor networks that haven't detected our fleets positioning themselves around this station." The chamber erupted in pandemonium. Weapons were drawn. Security forces mobilized. Alarms blared throughout the station, but the humans just stood there smiling. "You have exactly 30 seconds to calm down before my people get nervous," Marcus said conversationally. "And trust me, you don't want to see nervous humans." The temperature in the chamber dropped as alien weapons began overheating in their owners' hands. Life support systems flickered. The great holographic displays showing the Devourer advance suddenly changed. now displaying something that made every alien's blood run cold. Human ships, thousands of them, surrounding the council station, their weapons locked on target. How? The High Judge's voice was barely a whisper. 15 years, Marcus said, moving to the center of the chamber. 15 years you left us alone to die in isolation. Did you really think we'd just sit there feeling sorry for ourselves? Dr. Amara Okafor stepped forward, her dark skin gleaming under the alien lights. While you celebrated keeping the dangerous humans contained, we built an empire. While you rested easy thinking we were trapped, we mapped your entire galaxy. While you lived in peace, we prepared for war. The Devourers, Admiral Zix began, are 3 days from this system, Marcus interrupted. We know. We've been tracking them since they entered our galaxy. Fascinating technology, really. Our scientists are quite excited to study them up close. The Zephyrian delegates' wings buzzed in terror. You don't understand, they consume everything. They turned entire sectors into raw material. Yes, Marcus nodded. We read the historical records. You barely survived last time because you fought them conventionally. Ships against ships. Weapons against armor. His smile became predatory. But humans don't fight conventionally. Sarah Chen stepped out from behind Marcus, and several aliens actually fled the chamber. 15 years older, but somehow more dangerous, she carried herself like death personified. You exiled us for being too creative with destruction, she said quietly, for being too violent, too unpredictable. She looked around the chamber at the terrified alien faces. You were right to be afraid. The holographic displays changed, again showing technical readouts that made the alien scientists gasp in horror and admiration. Planet crackers, Sarah continued. Starforge weapons, reality manipulation devices. We've spent 15 years turning every human nightmare into working technology. And now the Devourers are about to learn why the galaxy was so afraid of us. Marcus moved to the High Judge's platform. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to save your galaxy. We're going to destroy the Devourers so completely that they become a cautionary tale. And afterward. He paused, letting the silence stretch until every alien was hanging on his words. Afterward, we're going to have a very serious conversation about humanity's place in this galaxy. Chapter 4. The War. The battle began at the edge of the Vega system. The Devourer fleet emerged from dark space like a plague of mechanical locusts. 10,000 ships that had consumed entire star systems, their hulls grown fat with devoured worlds. Admiral Marcus Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the human flagship Retribution, watching the enemy approach on screens that showed impossible detail across light years of space. Contact, announced Lieutenant Park. Devourer Advance Fleet is moving to engagement range. They're larger than our projections. Through the viewport, the enemy was visible as a dark stain against the stars, ships the size of moons bristling with weapons that had cracked planets. Behind them came the true horror, constructor ships that would turn the debris of battle into more Devourers. Alien fleet status? Marcus asked calmly. The Galaxy Council forces are holding position at the system's edge, reported Commander Chen from the tactical station. 15 million ships, just as they promised. They're waiting for us to engage first. Marcus almost smiled. Even now, facing extinction, the aliens wanted the humans to take the greatest risk. Dr. Okafor, are our special packages ready? From the science station, Amara's voice carried across the bridge with barely contained excitement. The entropy bombs are armed and ready. The Starseed deployment vessels are in position and She paused. The other thing is prepared. The other thing? Park asked nervously. Something we built that doesn't have a name yet, Sarah Chen said from her position at the weapons console, because when we tried to classify it, the classification committee had nervous breakdowns. The Devourer fleet was closing. Their weapons were charging, energy signatures that registered as small stars being born and dying in their weapon. Cores. All human vessels, Marcus announced across the fleet channel. Execute Shadow Protocol. The human fleet simply vanished. One moment, 800 ships hung in space facing the Devourer advance. The next empty void stretched between the mechanical horrors and the distant alien defenders. On every alien ship, sensors went wild trying to locate the human fleet. Long-range scanners found nothing. Short-range detectors registered empty space. Even quantum sensors showed no trace of the human vessels. Where did they go? Admiral Zix demanded from his command ship, panic creeping into his translated voice. His answer came as the first Devourer ships began exploding. Not damaged, exploding. Massive vessels that had survived thousand-year voyages through dark space suddenly came apart in chains of spectacular detonations. No visible weapons fire, no energy signatures, no warning. The Devourers began firing in all directions, their ancient programming unable to comprehend an enemy that couldn't be detected. Massive energy beams lanced through space, hitting nothing but creating light shows visible from neighboring star systems. "Ghost Fleet report," Marcus said calmly, watching the enemy fleet tear itself apart trying to find targets that weren't there. 60 Devourer ships destroyed, came Sarah's voice through the comm. Their armor is impressive, but it can't stop weapons that materialize inside their hulls. Vanguard Fleet, status? We're in position around their constructor ships, reported Captain Liu from the Vanguard command vessel. The big ones are completely helpless. They're built for processing matter, not fighting ghosts. Marcus nodded. Humanity's greatest advantage wasn't superior firepower or better armor. It was their ability to fight in ways their enemies couldn't even comprehend. While the aliens built bigger ships and stronger weapons, humans had learned to bend the rules of reality itself. "Dr. Okafor, deploy the starseeds." "With pleasure," Amara replied. Deep in space, invisible human vessels released their cargo. The starseeds were humanity's answer to the Devourer reproduction cycle. Instead of consuming matter to build more ships, these devices did something far more elegant. They convinced matter that it wanted to become something else entirely. The effect was immediate and horrifying. Devourer ships began changing, their metal hulls flowing like liquid as their atomic structure was rewritten. Some became crystalline structures that shattered under their own mass. Others turned into exotic matter that simply ceased to exist. A few became flowers because human scientists had a sense of humor that bordered on the psychotic. "This is impossible," whispered the High Judge from his observation vessel. "Matter doesn't work that way." "It does when you convince it politely," Sarah's voice came through the open channel. "Humans have always been good at making friends." The Devourer fleet was in full retreat now, their ancient programming recognizing a threat beyond their comprehension. But the humans weren't finished. "All vessels," Marcus announced. "Execute Revelation Protocol." The human fleet materialized around the fleeing Devourers like death itself, taking physical form. 800 ships that hadn't existed moments before suddenly filled space, their weapons already firing. But these weren't the weapons the galaxy knew. These were nightmares made manifest, energy beams that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously, projectiles that arrived before they were fired, defensive systems that convinced enemy weapons they were pointing the wrong direction. The slaughter was magnificent and terrible. Thousand-year-old Devourer vessels, survivors of the galaxy's last great war, were destroyed by weapons that rewrote the laws of physics to ensure their targets ceased to exist. In 40 minutes, it was over. 10,000 Devourer ships, and a armada that had consumed entire sectors, had been reduced to exotic matter and cosmic dust by a human fleet 1/13 their size. The galaxy watched in silence as the human ships reformed into neat formations, their hulls unmarked by battle. "Alien fleet commanders," Marcus broadcast on all frequencies. "You are welcome to salvage what remains. Our scientists have finished their scans." Admiral Zix's voice shook as he responded. "Finished? Scans?" "Oh yes." Dr. Okafor's cheerful voice filled the channel. "We wanted to understand how they worked before we destroyed them. Fascinating technology, really. We've already incorporated several improvements into our own designs." The silence that followed stretched across light years. Finally, the High Judge found his voice. "Commander Rodriguez, what happens now?" Marcus smiled, though none of the aliens could see it. Now we discuss the future of this galaxy and humanity's place in it. Chapter 5. The New Order. 1 year after the Devourer War, the Galaxy Council chambers had been completely rebuilt. The new design accommodated both traditional alien architecture and human preferences, which meant it was both beautiful and subtly terrifying. Sarah Chen stood before the assembled representatives, but this time she wore the insignia of the Human Diplomatic Corps, rather than military rank. Around her, the chamber buzzed with nervous energy as delegates from 800 species waited to hear humanity's terms. "Friends," Sarah began, and several aliens flinched at the word. "A year ago, you faced extinction. Your fleets were outnumbered, your weapons inadequate, your strategies conventional. The Devourers would have consumed this galaxy within a decade." She gestured to a holographic display showing the battle statistics. "In 40 minutes, humanity destroyed what you considered an unstoppable force. Not through superior numbers, but through superior thinking." High Judge Valdorian, now bearing cybernetic enhancements that helped his aged body function, raised a trembling tentacle. What do you want from us?" Sarah smiled, an expression that still made many aliens uncomfortable, but they were learning to read it better. This one seemed almost genuine. "We want what we've always wanted," she said simply. "To be part of this galaxy, to trade, to learn, to grow alongside other species. The same thing we wanted before you exiled us." Murmurs filled the chamber. Several delegates exchanged skeptical looks. Admiral Zix leaned forward. "But you're different now. More dangerous than before." "Are we?" Sarah asked. "Or are we exactly what we've always been? A species that adapts to whatever challenges we face? You made us into outcasts, so we learned to thrive in exile. You made us into enemies, so we became very good at war. You forced us to be alone, so we built something unprecedented." Dr. Amara Okafor stepped forward, her diplomatic robes flowing around her tall frame. "We've prepared a proposal for post-war relations. It's quite generous considering." The holographic display changed, showing a complex treaty document that had taken months to negotiate. "First," Amara began, "the exile decree is officially rescinded. Humans will have full rights to travel, trade, and settle throughout the galaxy." Several aliens relaxed slightly. This seemed reasonable. "Second, humanity will share selected technologies with member species of the Galaxy Council. Medical advances, agricultural improvements, defensive systems." Now the aliens looked interested. Human technology could revolutionize their civilizations. "Third, we propose the creation of a joint defense force. The Devourers weren't the only threat out there, and the galaxy needs protectors who think creatively." "And in return?" asked the Serpentine delegate, his forked tongue tasting the air suspiciously. Sarah's smile became predatory again. "In return, you acknowledge what this war proved. Humanity isn't just another species in this galaxy. We're the species that saves galaxies. When the universe sends you nightmares, you call us." She moved to the center of the chamber, her voice carrying to every corner. "You exiled us because we were too dangerous, too violent, too creative with destruction. But here's what you failed to understand. We're creative with everything. We turned exile into empire. We turned isolation into advantage. We turned your fear into our strength." The chamber was dead silent now. "So here's the new reality," Sarah continued. "Humanity is no longer asking for permission to exist in this galaxy. We're not requesting a seat at your table. We built our own table, and now we're inviting you to join us." The implications hung in the air like a challenge. This wasn't a negotiation between equals. This was the galaxy's new apex predator offering terms to the rest of the food chain. High Judge Valdorian spoke carefully. "And if we refuse these terms?" Sarah's expression didn't change, but somehow the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "Then you refuse," she said simply. "Humanity will continue to exist, continue to grow, continue to thrive. With or without the Galaxy Council's approval. But the next time something threatens this galaxy, and there will be a next time, you'll face it alone. The silence stretched for long minutes. Finally, Admiral Zix stood. I move to accept the human proposal, he said formally. All in favor? The vote was unanimous. Epilogue. Legacy. 50 years after the exile decree, Admiral Marcus Rodriguez, now bearing the title Supreme Commander of Galactic Defense, stood in his office aboard the massive space station that served as humanity's diplomatic headquarters. Through the vast windows he could see the traffic of 100 species moving between human and alien vessels. Trade ships, exploration vessels, scientific expeditions, and the sleek warships of the Joint Defense Fleet. Sir, Lieutenant Park, now Captain Park, entered with a data pad. The quarterly reports from the Outer Rim territories. Marcus accepted the pad, scanning the information. New colonies established, trade routes secured, 3 attempted invasions repelled by rapid response fleets equipped with human technology. Any word from the deep space exploration fleets? He asked. Captain Chen reports they've made contact. With the Andromedans, Park replied. Apparently they've been watching our galaxy for millennia, waiting to see if we were worth talking to. And? Park smiled. They want to meet the species that convinced the Devourers to run away screaming. Marcus chuckled. The legend had grown in the telling. Some alien species now told stories of humans who could unmake reality with a thought, who had built weapons that existed in imaginary numbers, who had once convinced a star to go supernova, just to win an argument. Most of it was exaggeration. Most of it, sir, Park continued. There's something else. We've detected signals from the galactic core. Something big is stirring down there. Ancient, possibly older than the Devourers. Marcus set down the data pad and looked out at the busy space lanes. In the distance, a human exploration vessel was departing for parts unknown, its crew eager to discover what lay beyond the next star system. Well, he said finally, I suppose they'll need us again soon. Park frowned. Doesn't it bother you that they only appreciate us when they need saving? Marcus considered this. You know what bothers me? The thought that they might not need saving, that the galaxy might become peaceful and boring. He turned to his aide with the same predatory grin that had become humanity's trademark. We were exiled for being too dangerous, too creative, too unpredictable. If the galaxy becomes safe, what happens to us? Park's expression shifted to match her commander's. I suppose we'll have to find new ways to be creative. Exactly, Marcus nodded. The Galaxy Council thought they were punishing us with exile. Instead, they gave us the greatest gift possible, the motivation to become more than we ever dreamed. He moved to his desk and activated a communication array that could reach every human settlement in known space. Attention all human vessels and colonies, he broadcast. This is Supreme Command. We have new signals from the galactic core. Something ancient is awakening. All exploration fleets are to maintain safe distances and observe only. He paused, his smile becoming truly frightening, unless, of course, it proves hostile. In which case, be creative. Across the galaxy, on ships and stations and worlds, humans received the message and smiled. They were the species that had turned exile into empire, isolation into strength, fear into power. And now they were being asked to be creative again. The galaxy had no idea what it had unleashed when it tried to cage humanity. But it was about to find out. After all, humans had always been very good at making friends, even with their nightmares. The end.